Hi guys, welcome to my channel Life with Ash. This week's video is going to be on a topic that you guys voted for. So the most popular topic in my Instagram poll this week was the unexpected side effects of grief. Now, no one really understands grief and grieving until they're there themselves. You can do all the research in the world, but grief is something you can't understand until you're in it. And even when you're in it, you still struggle to understand. No two people grieve the same. You could be grieving the exact same loss, but coping with it completely different. So please note that this video is based on my personal experiences with grief. You may relate to some things, you may not. But at the end of the day, this video is 100% based on my experiences. Your experiences might be totally different, and if they are, please tell me about them in the comments. What was the most unexpected side effect of grief for you? One of my biggest unexpected side effects of grief for me personally has been the struggle to connect. And it's quite a big topic. So since losing Bobby, I have found myself really struggling to connect with people, both old friends and acquaintances, but also meeting new people. When it comes to the people who I've known and loved much before losing Bobby, I struggle to connect with them because I'm not the same person as I was before I lost her. I am a completely different person. The person who I was before losing Bobby is gone. So in a way, I've had to mourn that person because she's not coming back. I've completely changed, and it's such a normal thing to become a different person after a loss as big as this one. So catching up with new friends often feels weird for me because I feel so disconnected to them. I feel like the things that we used to talk about and things that used to be important to us are no longer important to me. And I struggle to find the line between being open and honest about what I'm going through, but then overdoing it and becoming too much and talking about my loss and my grief to the point where at first it's upsetting for my friends, but then eventually it becomes annoying. I remember years ago when I was really unwell and I was pretty well bedbound most of the time, my whole life was centered around being sick and going to doctors. There was nothing else going on in my life. And one of my friends at the time said to me, I just don't want to be around you because all you talk about is your illness, and it's really like it brings us down, and I don't want to hear about it. And since that moment, it's always made me really conscious about how much I talk about something that's quite upsetting for people. And so it's hard because if I'm out having a good time with friends or family and all of a sudden I'm feeling a bit down, I sort of hold back on talking about it most of the time because I don't want to bring them down too. I don't want to become annoying with the topic, which sounds so silly and superficial, but it's a real big insecurity of mine. And because of that, I just avoid social activities altogether. On the other hand, meeting new people is so hard because it's crazy to think that I'm meeting people who have no idea what I've just been through. Starting a new job, living in a new area. I'm meeting new people all the time, and I feel like I'm hiding a huge chunk of who I am from them. For example, working with a mum of a toddler. She'll be telling me things about her children, and I'll chime in and relate to her. And she'll sort of look at me as in, oh, I didn't realize you had kids. What do I say to that? How do I answer that question? How do I say, well, technically, no, I've never given birth, but I raised a child and I no longer raise that child because she passed away. It's such a heavy thing to carry into all of my conversations. And it sounds so simple, you know. When I talk to new mums and I try and give them advice, they look at me like I have no authority and no experience to do that. And let's be honest, no mum takes advice from someone who's never had children. It's just people who haven't had children just don't understand, so you're not going to take advice from them. So these people like looking at me as if to say, why are you trying to tell me what to do? Like you don't know what you're talking about. But I do know what I'm talking about, and that's the thing that's frustrating for me, is I just want to say, I know what I'm talking about, I've done this, but I can't, because it's such a heavy topic that you try not to bring into a light everyday conversation. I talk a lot with my hands. I'm going to try and minimize that from now on. It's such a hard thing, and it's frustrating for me because I have a lot of good advice and people don't really take me seriously because they think that because I've never given birth to a child that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure if I explain my situation, they'd be more inclined to listen to my advice, but it's just a very heavy conversation to have. So meeting new people is a huge struggle. And even things like my hair. I'm wearing a wig today. I don't know why, I just felt like wearing a wig. My hair's at such an awkward length, it's really hard to style, it's frustrating me a lot. But you know, I will never regret doing it. It's the best thing I've done. I'm just at a stage now where I'm not happy with it, but that's okay, it'll grow. People who didn't know me before Bobby just assume that I love having short hair and I've always had short hair. And people will say things to me like, oh, you know, you pull off short hair so well, it's definitely your thing, I could never do it. And I sort of want to be like, well, I've never really liked short hair, I never really thought I'd have short hair, but I shaved my head for someone very special and this is it growing back. But it's a really, like I said, it's such a heavy topic to bring into such a light-hearted conversation. It seems quite silly and insignificant, but it's a big thing for me. Things like people complimenting my tattoos, saying, oh my gosh, that's beautiful, what does it mean? Or things along those lines. It's, you know, this whole part of my arm is dedicated to Bobby. The Pooh Bear tattoo on my ankle is dedicated to Bobby. There's just so much meaning and pain behind the tattoos that when people say, hey, I like your tattoo, they don't expect me to be like, oh, hey, I got them in dedication to my 3-year-old who died of cancer. Like that's not what you expect when you say, hey, nice tattoo. So I struggle to connect with people. I really do. I struggle to connect with friends that I made in my Bear Cottage and Ronald McDonald House stays, because their children are still here. Struggling, some of them I might add, going through treatment still, up and down, but their kids are still here. And it's not because I am angry at them for that, but we don't have that common ground anymore. And I struggle to connect because I guess there is that deeper jealousy. There is that trigger for me. So it's hard. I struggle. I struggle to communicate with other parents who've lost their children, because I don't know why I struggle there. I don't have an explanation for that one, but it's a struggle. It's a trigger. We're both in this awkward stage of, we want to talk about it, but we don't want to talk about it. It's difficult because we're both at a stage where we're trying to be normal again, and we feel like talking about our loss is in a way living in the past and making it harder for us to move on. And it's uncomfortable because you still have that awkward, oh, what if I bring it up and they're not thinking about it in this moment? And then, you know, it's so awkward. And I completely understand why people around me struggle to connect with me too, because it's very awkward to talk to someone who's grieving. It's so uncomfortable. And I know that. I know that because it's just human nature to tiptoe around death. Like, it's this taboo topic that we can't talk about, you know? Further than, hey, how are you going with everything? That's really as in-depth as it gets. People don't want to ask the deeper questions. They don't want to bring up the person you've lost because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because they're worried about making you feel uncomfortable and upset. So they just don't talk about it. But I'm here to tell you that there's not a time that we're not thinking about it. You bringing up our special person is not going to upset us. I mean, yes, sometimes it might make us cry, and that's okay. We cry all the time about it. It's fine. But by you, there is a white butterfly flying around the window. By you bringing that person up, it shows us, it reminds us that you still care about them and you miss them too. And it makes us feel like it's okay to talk about it. And that's really special, and that's really, really important to know that we can still talk about them. So I know as a friend of someone grieving, it's awkward, it's difficult, you feel like you need to tiptoe around things, but just be there. I am going to make a video in the next few weeks of the best and worst things you can say to someone who's grieving, so that video might be really helpful if you've got a friend who's dealing with grief. Because let's face it, nobody knows what to say to someone who's lost a loved one. I struggle with it. I struggle, and I've been in that predicament, and I still feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to make a video on that, and I feel like it will be super helpful if you've got a friend who's dealing with grief, or for you to share for your friends if you are grieving. So that is the first topic of an unexpected side effect of grief. I never expected to feel so disconnected from new and old friends. The next unexpected side effect of grief for me has been forgetting everything. I have the memory of a goldfish right now. If I don't write something down, it's gone. I have to literally schedule in my phone every single thing that I need to do. If you say, hey, let's grab a coffee on Tuesday, if I don't put that in my phone, my lights are flickering. Well, we're having a bit of a disco. That's interesting. I don't know what it is about grief that makes you so forgetful. I think it's the fact that your brain is just so busy with other things. It's so busy trying to process the loss. It's so busy trying to figure out how to live life after the loss. It's so busy remembering the times, the good times and the bad. It's just so full of your grief. Grief takes up so much space in your brain that it's so hard to remember things. I struggle to remember if I've taken my medication, which I haven't today. I have not taken my medication today. Oops. See what I mean? It's things that I do every single day and have done every single day for years. It's just so hard for me to remember now. Like it's so difficult. And I think I don't know how to get back on track. Like, you've just got to stay so organized. If you find yourself struggling to remember things, you just need to write them all down. Make a list and check it off as you go through, because it's really, really hard to remember. I forget my age now, and I don't know if that's because I'm aging or if that's a grief-related thing, but I just forget everything. It's the day-to-day tasks, the plans that you make with your friends, the little things that you forget, but they're somehow easy to overcome. You can get through that. You can apologize for missing a coffee date or make up for things like that, but it's those split seconds where you forget about the loss itself. When you wake up in the morning and you forget for a split second. When you drive home from work and you're excited to go home to someone who isn't there. When you walk into a shop and you go to buy something for someone who's no longer with you. When you think of a fun activity that you'd like to do with someone who's no longer here, it's those things that hit the hardest and hurt the most. And I don't know how long that takes to get over, because I still do that. I mean, it's becoming less and less, so I know it's getting better, but that split second of happiness, of wanting to do something with that person, and then that immediate crash, that sinking feeling of remembering that they're not here. And how dare I forget? How dare I, for that 0.0000001 of a second, how dare I forget? And I feel so guilty for forgetting. Like, how can you forget that? Even if it was just, this much of a second. It's, how do you forget? And you beat yourself up for forgetting for that split second, and it's awful. It's an awful feeling. And I know I'm not alone with that. I know that that's quite common. So if you feel like that, you're not alone. And that's sometimes quite comforting to know that you're not the only one, because you do beat yourself up. You do feel so guilty for forgetting for less than a second. Especially at first, that was really, really hard to think, how did that just happen? For that tiny second did I forget? It's an instinct thing. Like, for me, walking into any shop, I would go straight to the section that Bobby loved, the clothes section, the toy section, and I'd go buy her something. So still, when I walk into somewhere like Kmart or Big W or Target or anywhere, I want to go and I want to buy her something, and that's my instinct. Still, to this day, that is my instinct 6 months on. And I don't know when that will stop or when that will change, but it's just because that's what I would always do. It's a pattern, it's an instinct, it's a habit, and it's one that's very, very hard to break. So yeah, I've really struggled with that, and it's something you never think of. You think that when someone you love dies, you're not going to forget that. You don't forget that. And I mean, I don't actually forget that, but for those tiny seconds I do. And I just would have never imagined that being the case, ever. I would have never, ever thought. So that was one of the unexpected side effects it really caught me off guard. Yeah, no one really talks about that. I've never heard anyone talk about it before. So here I am talking about it. And if you've ever experienced that, I want to make sure you know that it's okay and you're not the only one. The next unexpected side effect that I want to talk about is, I don't know if this is a general grief side effect or if it's more specific to someone who's lost a child or someone they cared for. And that is the constant need to feel needed. I feel so lost not having someone constantly rely on me 24/7, and I need that feeling. I need it. I satisfied that need by getting a puppy, but he's getting bigger and he needs me less and less. And I'm feeling that again. I'm feeling that huge emptiness. I just have this constant need to feel like I'm needed and I'm important, and it's so hard to explain, and it just I know it comes from the fact that Bobby relied on me and needed me for most of her life, and for years I was the person she needed, and now that she's no longer here and she no longer needs me, I need her. I need someone to, it's a really tough one to talk about. Basically I just have this urge to nurture and care for someone who I don't have someone I don't want anyone to take her place, and that's not what I'm saying, but it just I feel so empty and lost without it. It defined me for so long, and I don't know how to work through that one. I really don't. That's one I'm really struggling with, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to have this need to feel needed. It's an interesting one. Let me know in the comments if you relate to that, because I'm not sure if that's specific to my grief or similar griefs to mine, or if it's a general thing. I'm pretty sure it's more of a child loss, experience, but I'd love to know. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on that one. Everyone tells you that grief is a roller coaster, that it's up and down and up and down. Everyone says it. But I didn't really understand how big this goddamn roller coaster is. Like, it is the craziest roller coaster ever. Like, 1 minute you are so far up, and you might only be up there for 1 second, and then all of a sudden you're crashing down so low. You're upside down, you're on this, like, you're everywhere. It is the most intense experience. And as you go on, as time goes on, the roller coaster sort of evens out a little bit, but you never get off the roller coaster. It's a constant ride. And I know that people say life itself is a roller coaster, but when you go through the grief part of that roller coaster, it is just, it's wild. It is so wild, and you will never experience lows so low and that hit so hard, that sinking feeling as you're going down really fast in a roller coaster where your stomach feels like it's in your throat. That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like. It's awful. 1 minute, you feel like things are going a bit steady, and bam, you just constantly drop. And it's crazy because the smallest things can trigger a low. Like the tiniest little thing. Like going and getting a coffee can trigger me like that. Seeing a toddler in the supermarket can trigger me like that. Walking past the kids aisle in a supermarket, in a shopping center, can trigger me. Anything. I had a lady come into my work one day when I was still at the cafe, and she had a Pooh Bear mug, and that completely triggered me. Some days I'll drive past Bobby's preschool and I won't even think about it, I won't even notice it, and then other days I will go a completely different route because I can't bring myself to drive past it, or I will drive past it and it'll be all that I can think about, and it will consume me and completely trigger me into a low. It's insane how it works. And I did not expect it to be this intense. I was not expecting it. I mean, you know, hearing her favorite song on the radio, I understand why that would trigger me, or, you know, finding an item of hers would trigger me, but I didn't expect the little things to trigger me as much as they do now. One of my biggest struggles through my grief has been the nightmares, and it's not something I ever imagined as being a trigger of grief, but it's awful. Like, my nightmares are so intense and graphic, and I just constantly have nightmares of me trying to save Bobby from the most ridiculous things. I'm never saving her from cancer, but I'm trying to save her from a burning building, or I'm trying to save her from a car accident, or from drowning, or from being kidnapped, or from being, you know, murdered, or from being eaten by a wolf, or whatever. There's just always something that I'm trying to save her from, and I fail every time. And it comes from my subconscious feeling of that I failed her, that I couldn't save her. And I know that that's ridiculous because she had an incurable disease, but I just think if I took her away from the toxic environment that she grew up in, if I, you know, followed my gut instinct and took her to the doctors myself, would she have been diagnosed sooner? Would she have even got cancer if she wasn't so mistreated as a baby? You drive yourself crazy with all of these thoughts of, is it my fault? Could I have done something? And I know that there's nothing I could have done, but my subconscious can't accept it. And I have dreams where I'm holding her, and, you know, I'm just holding her, and then all of a sudden she just deteriorates in my arms, and all of a sudden I'm holding her body, and it's so traumatizing. And I know that the nightmares are a big part of the PTSD I now suffer from everything I went through. I know that, and, you know, I'm working through that with a psychologist, but I didn't think nightmares would affect my life as much as they have been. And they're settling down a bit now. I was having them every night, to now once or twice a week I have a really, really bad nightmare about Bobby. I've been having some really nice dreams about Bobby lately, which is what I needed. I'll tell you, I had this incredible dream, not last night, but the night before. And I woke up feeling so emotional, but good emotional. I was with Bobby, and she's like, "Come on, sissy, I need you to come with me." And I went with her, and it was little Bobby, little 3-year-old Bobby, how I remembered her. She was holding my hand and she was walking me, and she walked me over to a little 6-year-old. And it was Bobby as a 6-year-old, and I was talking to her and she was talking to me, and then little 3-year-old Bobby was like, "Okay, come on." And then she introduced me to 10-year-old Bobby, and then she introduced me to like 16 or 18-year-old Bobby, and then she introduced me to 25-year-old Bobby, and it was like looking in a mirror. And then I was like, who's next? Like, you know, I was really excited in the dream. I was loving it. And then little Bobby was like, "No, that's it. I just wanted to be like Sissy." And I don't really understand what it meant, but maybe because she really looked up to me and admired me, that she wanted to grow up like me. And I don't know, but it was so beautiful, and I just woke up feeling so happy that I got to connect with her like that. And I don't know if that was just, you know, my subconscious trying to make peace with things, or maybe her showing me that it's okay, or I don't know what it was, but it was really nice. And compared to some of the awful nightmares I've had, I was really glad to have a nice dream like that. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced beautiful dreams like that after losing a loved one. I'd love to hear it. Like, you often hear about when you lose an older relative, like a grandparent or a parent, they present themselves to you as their favorite age. So like, you know, your mum might come back as a 30-year-old woman because that was her favorite age. But with a child, you really don't know, because they never got to experience those ages to really pick a favorite. So I don't know, maybe Bobby's spirit, I don't know. If anyone has any insight on that, if anyone knows much about it, please comment below and tell me. I'd love to see what you think, see what your interpretation of that is, because it was a really powerful dream, and it was so realistic. It just felt so real. I know a lot of dreams do, but yeah, let me know your take on it. Let me know what you think it means, because I would love to hear it. I mentioned just before PTSD. PTSD is hugely popular with people who are grieving. My PTSD comes from the traumatic events surrounding Bobby's last year of her life. So living in a hospital, all the medical trauma, that's really triggering for me. I've been in hospital with Johnny, for Johnny, a couple of times since losing Bobby, and I can't cope. I hear the machines beeping, and all of a sudden I just become a wreck, because it just takes me back to Bobby, and having to sleep through those beeping sounds over and over again, night after night after night. Just being in that environment, it's really triggering for me. Being with kids around her age is really triggering. Some days I handle it fine, other days I just can't cope with it at all. I know I've mentioned this a few times before, but to all of my friends who have children who I've really distanced myself from, I'm sure you know who you are, I am so sorry. I'm working through it, but it's really triggering for me to be around my friends with kids, especially little girls, which most of my friends have. A little bit younger, a little bit older. It's really hard, and I am working on it, and I'm hoping to be a little bit more present in your lives soon, because I miss you. I miss your children. It's just a really difficult thing for me, and I put a post up about it on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago, holding my beautiful friend Keely's little ones, and I wrote a bit about kids as a trigger for me. So yeah, it was a really unexpected thing. I felt that it would be the opposite, that I would be clinging to other people's children to fill the hole, but I just had this resentment to the world of, you know, why my little girl, why Bobby? There are so many. There's no child in the world that deserves it. No child in the world. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just sort of like, why her? Why her? And it's something there's no answer to, there's no reason for, something I've just got to come to terms with and accept. And I struggle because, you know, I might notice something a little bit different about your child, and immediately my brain's like, oh my god, what if they have cancer? And I can't do that to my friends. I can't be like, you know, I can't do that. So it's really triggering for me, and I am working on it. I never expected. I thought it would definitely be the opposite. I thought I'd be clinging to other people's children. My lights are now going crazy again, flickering. They're fully charged. The batteries are not dying on them, they're just flickering. and the butterflies are going crazy at the window again. So while we're having a disco here, probably courtesy of Miss Bobby, we'll talk about the last topic in my unexpected side effects of grief, and that is resentment. I have a lot of resentment to people I shouldn't hold resentment to. I resent other parents who have healthy, happy children. I resent parents with sick children who have a fighting chance. I resent people who talk to me about their problems because I'm like, you don't even know what problems are. And I shouldn't be like that. I have a lot of resentment, and again, it's something I'm working through with my psychologist. And if you are struggling with any of these things, please talk to someone about them. Please talk to a professional, because you can't get through grief on your own, and it's not enough to talk to your friends. You need to talk to a professional. I have a lot of resentment. I resent people around me for not grieving like me, for not struggling as much as me. I resent people for living these beautiful carefree lives, and I'm like, don't you know that there are dying children out here? How can you be so happy all the time? It's crazy how much resentment I have towards the world. And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect my grief to turn me into quite a resentful person, and I'm working through it because I don't want to be this way forever. I don't want to be a bitter lady. It's really quite a light show in here. It's actually a bit insane. Yeah, so that's basically my top unexpected side effects of grief. There are plenty of other side effects that I expected, that I go through every day, but those are the ones that really surprised me. In the comments, please let me know what your unexpected side effects of grief are. Let me know what you want me to talk about in my next videos, because at the end of the day, I want this channel to be for you guys. I want to help you guys through whatever you're going through in your life, whether you're grieving as well, whether you're just having a hard time with your mental health, anything. Just please let me know in the comments, because I'd love you guys to connect with my videos. And as I said, I want this channel to be for you guys, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it for any other reason other than to honor our beautiful Bobby and to try and make an impact on other people's lives, because that's the purpose that Bobby gave me. Bobby gave me the purpose of using her story to leave a mark on the world, and that's what I'm going to do. So please help me do that by telling me what would help you. What can I talk about that would help you? I've got some great video ideas coming up, so I'm working on them, but I'm more than happy to add in anything you'd like to see. I'm gonna wrap it up now. Thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. You'll have another video from me next week. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe.